Muffin Man, the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man. My son was singing that the other day, and I'm like, you know what? I should probably use that for another one of my intros or something like that. I don't know if any of you guys know that song, but anyway, subscriber request for the FV215b 183 versus the FV4005. Now, both these tanks have significant differences, and I think a lot of, especially more experienced players know which one of these is the better tank. There was a huge nerf that took place with the Deathstar, or the 183. That's its nickname. Won't necessarily say what the 405's nickname is, but to give you a hint, Pooh Barn. But the 183, there was a lot of complaints back in the day. I mean, if you look at it, it does a ton of damage per shot, and you can imagine it didn't make a lot of people happy to get hit by that thing quite frequently. It had its accuracy was much better back then. Its camo rating was much better back then. I mean, it had just a lot of things that made this tank much more capable and flexible. And since then, the tank, in my opinion, is probably one of the hardest tanks outside of some of the light tanks like the Bat Chat and things to play if you're not a very experienced players. But in my opinion, is probably one of the most fun tanks to play, because when you get that high penetrating, high explosive shell to penetrate in your enemies, the feeling of the amount of damage it does is just amazing. But to be able to get those shots off is difficult. So the Deathstar, very stiff, doesn't have a lot of gun depression, it's not very fast, its accuracy is not that great. It probably has some of the worst camo ratings in the game, but going against and compared to the FV405 that has absolutely no armor and can easily get pinned by that high penetrating, high explosive shell that the 183 has to offer, kind of makes it for a fun challenge. Now, if the 405 would have had much better armor and would have been harder to penetrate, then yeah, this wouldn't have been that fun of a match. But to see a high damage cannon versus this auto loading system both being a big threat to each other, it is kind of interesting to see, because the 405s have to be a bit more careful. They're huge tanks. I mean, you just look at the thing, it's just got this huge head. And I mean, going off its nickname, it does just kind of look like a barn, and can easily just get pinned from just about anywhere on the tank. And same goes for the 183. It's not as flat. The 405 has very, very flat armor, but it's way better in terms of maneuverability, way better in terms of accuracy. It's got a better camo rating. I think I said has better maneuverability. And so already, I mean, kind of off the bat, the 183s were putting up a pretty good fight, but the 405s, now they want to keep kind of on opposite sides. They're in a pretty good position. And with the Deathstar having such a long reload, now the 405 does once it's clipped out, and there you have it. So we're going to do best out of 3 rounds. The 405 took the first one. See if the Deathstars can come through, get a win in this next one. We've got much more. I think we have a full room here too. 2, 4, nope, just 6. So this one is 6v6. Now the 405s playing out on this terrain, they actually could do a lot better with, being they have more gun depression, so that does help them. The Deathstars would very much struggle out on this terrain, not having much. And it is one of those things, keeping in mind, is using that terrain to your advantage, understanding your tank, is if you don't have very good gun depression, trying to come up over hills. I've seen players a lot of times come right up over those hills to get their cannons down enough to get shots off, and they just get obliterated. And especially in this challenge of only being against Deathstars, that's not a risk you want to take. Now doing pretty good. Still closing in, looking for those Deathstars. Now, I'm not sure if this was a strategy, and I've seen players do this before. You'll have to let me know what you think. They look or seem like they're AFK, and then when a tank comes around the corner and spots them, they quickly turn and try and get a shot off. So maybe it's a tactic strategy, not 100% sure. .405's taking some hits. Pretty risky position for that 183 out there in the dunes. And wow, takes a huge hit. But that 183, you could just see how fast with the 405's auto-loading system, especially when you have multiple pointing at the same thing, it will deplete your hit points so fast. Now, it's funny, like, for those of you that have seen some of my recent vids, I play both BLITZ and I've started playing War Thunder. And it's funny because I was talking to one of my subs the other day and mentioning how weird it is when playing War Thunder. I feel like it's helped me become so much more of a better player in BLITZ just because of how less forgiving War Thunder is. It's just basically imagine everyone almost getting hit once and then dying instantly. You don't have like a hit point pool like BLITZ does, which is much more forgiving, unless you obviously get ammo racked, of course. Now this next match is quite incredible. I've never seen this before in all the showdowns I've done, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I'm going to have you go ahead and watch. I seriously just could not believe this. Taking some beastly hits. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I think the 183 was maybe nerfed a bit too much. I mean, you can see, I would say you take the 183 against almost any tier 10 and it would lose.
They're knocked out.
So you're going to see here soon exactly what I'm talking about. That is just incredible.
We finish him off. They're hit.
So there it is. Never once have I ever had a showdown where in a round an entire team hasn't taken any damage. Honestly, great effort by those that played the Death Star. It's a difficult tank, and it was very difficult for them, but they put up a good fight. Hope you enjoyed the vid. This is the Muffin here. Stay cool and keep tanking.